Hello everybody, Mobius1 here, bringing you episode 3 of my Star Wars Unlimited Twilight of the Republic card set review series. We just had a ton of new cards revealed to us over the last couple of days, and I figured it's time we start talking about some of them. Even though we've had like over 20 new cards showed to us this week, I'm going to try and break it down into smaller chunks. So in this video, we're going to be talking about 8 new cards, including 1 new leader. And hopefully that will help me kind of get these videos out a little bit quicker and just overall make it easier. Also, they won't be as ridiculously long. So with that out of the way, let's jump right in. So the first card we're taking a look at in this video is Plo Koon. He is a 5-cost Cunning Heroism ground unit with 3 power and 6 HP, and he has Ambush along with Coordinate Raid 3. Now there's a lot of keywords going on here, but not as many as another card we'll take a look at later in this video. So first of all, he's got Ambush, which means the turn you play him, he can attack another ground unit. And in addition to that, he has Coordinate, which is a new keyword that we're going to see in Twilight of the Republic, which basically just grants the card additional text when you control 3 or more units, this unit included. So, Plo Koon, if you have 2 other units in play when you play him, will not only get to ambush, but he will be ambushing with Raid 3, making him a 6/6 ambush for 5. Now, coincidentally, Cunning Heroism already has a 6/6 ambush ground unit with Han Solo. Of course, Han Solo costs 7, although his 6/6 stat line is not dependent on you having 2 other units already in play, and Han Solo does damage first before the defender, so if his 6 attack happens to defeat the defender, he won't actually take any combat damage back. Like many other cards we're going to be talking about in this set, Plo Koon also has the Force and Jedi traits, which Han Solo doesn't. This makes them different enough that I can see certain Cunning Heroism decks wanting to run Plo Koon, and others probably still wanting to run Han Solo, depending on how the rest of your deck is constructed. Han Solo simply has fewer hoops that you have to jump through in order to get a really nice 6/6 ambush, however, he comes out 2 turns later. On the other hand, if you're running a deck that has lots of Force or Jedi or even Republic synergies, to use cards like Force Throw here, Plo Koon will activate those cards for you where Han Solo will not. Another good example of this is one of the cards we looked at in the last video, General's Blade here. General's Blade is a 3-cost upgrade card that gives the attached unit +3/+3, and if the attached unit is a Jedi, which Plo Koon is, whenever they attack, they reduce the cost of the next unit you play by 2. So not only will General's Blade bump Plo Koon up to a baseline 6/9, if you have 2 other units in play alongside him, he'll be swinging as if he's a 9/9, and giving you a 2-cost discount on the next unit you play, which will help you keep 2 other units in play alongside him. Now, we've clearly got a ton of other cards still left to see in the set that could make Plo Koon or even General's Blade better, but I think this combo on its own is nothing to scoff at. It may not be S tier, but it's pretty good. Overall, Plo Koon, pretty solid. Don't know if he's going to make the final cut. We're going to have to wait and see what other Cunning Heroism, Force, Jedi, Republic cards we all get. But yo, dog, I heard you like keywords, so we put some keywords with your keywords, and then added some more keywords. The next card we're looking at is Gore, Grievous's pet. He's a 12-cost command unit, 7/7, with Exploit 3, Sentinel, Ambush, and Overwhelm. As a reminder, Exploit is another new keyword coming in Twilight of the Republic, which allows you to sacrifice a number of units up to the value of Exploit, and for each unit you sacrifice, it discounts the cost to play this card by 2 per unit. In other words, Gore, while he's a 12-cost 7/7, if you're willing to sacrifice 3 of your own creatures, will discount him by 6, making him a 6-cost 7/7 with Sentinel, Ambush, and Overwhelm. Maul from Shadows of the Galaxy is a 7-cost 7/6 with both Ambush and Overwhelm. So yeah, you are paying 1 more resource and losing 1 HP, however, Maul has that really interesting on attack ability where any combat damage he receives in return could be you know, shoved off onto another underworld unit, but he also doesn't have the quasi-restriction of needing to sacrifice other units that are already in play in order to get him out for only 7. A 6-cost 7/7 with all those keywords seems great, but you have to give up 3 other units in order for it to cost that low. Now, yes, those units you sacrifice could be measly 1/1 battle droid tokens if you're able to have 3 of them sticking around on the board, but those are still units you're giving up in order to get Gore into play. Now, I don't think Gore is a great card, but what I do think a lot of people are overlooking when it comes to Gore is his flexibility. The fact that he has exploit 3 means you can sacrifice up to 3 units in order to reduce his cost. You don't have to. You could sacrifice 2 units to get a 4-cost discount and play him as an 8-cost unit. And then the way I look at the other 3 keywords is they kind of fall into 2 distinct categories. You have Sentinels kind of on its own, and then Ambush and Overwhelm kind of work well together. So if your opponent has units in play already, when you play him, you can ambush one of those units, and whatever excess damage will be carried over to the base because of Overwhelm. But even if your opponent doesn't have units in play, the fact that he's a 7/7 Sentinel means that you can still play him and he'll keep you protected from any future threats. And he does have that Separatist trait, and well, we haven't seen a whole lot of Separatist synergy yet. You can take a look here at Separatist Commando, which does care about having other Separatist units in play, so I imagine we might see some more synergies with that later, which could make Gore better. Yeah, so I don't know. Gore, he's a pretty difficult card to evaluate this early. I don't think he's great, but I think people do overlook how flexible he can be. Next up, we have Shock T, a 4-cost command heroism ground unit with 3 power and 4 HP that reads each friendly token unit gets +1/+0, and on attack, create a Clone Trooper token. Now, we've seen them in previous videos, but as a reminder, Clone Trooper tokens are, unlike Battle Droid tokens, 2/2s. So every time Shock T attacks, you'll be adding another 2/2 body to your ground arena. And not only that, her passive ability will make those 2/2 tokens 3/2 tokens instead. In a previous video, I talked about how awesome it would be if we got a sort of General Dodonna-ish unit in this set that gives other friendly Republic units +1/+1 just passively. And while Shock T doesn't do that exactly because she's only buffing token units, not all Republic units, she is getting close to something along those lines. Any card that you play that generates token units, like Captain Rex here, for example, that creates 2 Clone Trooper tokens when you play him, if you have Shock T in play, you're going to be buffing all of those tokens regardless of what source they come from. And comically, if your opponent were to play a card such as Jessie and give you 2 Battle Droid tokens, those Battle Droids would be 2 1s instead of 1 1s because Shock T buffs every friendly token regardless of what it is. It doesn't have to be a Clone Trooper token. That also means that going forward, Shock T is going to have to be revisited every time new token units are added to Star Wars Unlimited. Now, 3/4 for 4 is not really a great stat line. I'd be a little nervous playing Shock T onto an empty board, but playing her later in the game when you already have some token units established could make for a really powerful swing play. And we already talked about it in this episode, but General's Blade, again, if you're playing Shock T, you're already playing a green deck, so you might as well throw this in there. So if you can attach it to her, it makes her a 6/7 that on attack summons another 2/2 Clone Trooper, a 3/2 Clone Trooper token, and gives you a 2-cost discount on the next unit you play. All this to say, I don't think Shock T is great on her own. However, I also don't think Shock T requires a whole lot of support to take her from kind of being a mediocre card to being a very powerful card. Alright, but next up, let's take a look at a new leader coming in Twilight of the Republic. It's time to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi is a blue-white or vigilance heroism leader with the ability to exhaust him to heal 1 damage from a unit. And then on 6 resources, Obi-Wan Kenobi can deploy to become a 4/7 body with Sentinel, and on attack, heal 1 damage from a unit. If you do, deal 1 damage to a different unit. We have a lot to talk about with this card, but let's just go back and talk about his leader side first. First, if we compare him to Leader Rey, Rey's ability allows her to spend a resource, exhaust her to give an experience token to a unit with 2 or less power. Now, giving an experience token to a unit is definitely better than just healing 1 damage from it. It's essentially the same because you're adding 1 to its HP, which is, again, better than healing, and you're also adding 1 to its power. However, Rey comes with several restrictions that Obi-Wan doesn't. First, you need to have an extra resource in order to use the ability, whereas Obi-Wan's ability is free. And second, her ability is restricted to only being used on units with 2 or less power. Additionally, if we compare him to Luke Skywalker Faithful Friend, Luke Skywalker's ability also requires a resource to use, but can give a shield token to a heroism unit you played this phase. Again, giving a shield token to a unit is definitely better than healing 1 damage from a unit because that shield token is going to absorb 1 attack regardless of how much damage it does. But, like Rey, it comes along with a bunch of restrictions. You, again, need to pay a resource, and you can only use it on heroism units that were played that phase. Now, coincidentally, Obi-Wan deploys on 6, which is the same number of resources as both Rey and Luke, so before we compare him to other leaders, let's look at his leader unit side compared to theirs. Now, sticking with Luke Skywalker, they're both 4/7 bodies, and Luke's ability now allows him to give a shield token to any other unit, regardless of their aspect or if they were played, so his ability gets much stronger when he deploys. They do both share the Force trait, however, Luke Skywalker, Faithful Friend, is not a Jedi, so certain synergies, like, again, General's Blade, would not work with Luke Skywalker, where they could work with Obi-Wan. Obviously, Luke Skywalker doesn't have Sentinel, whereas Obi-Wan does, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Leader Rey, on the other hand, when she flips, is only a 2/6 instead of a 4/7. Her on-attack does allow her to buff herself 1 time, giving her a 3/7 stat line. But the big draw of Leader Rey's deployed side is her Restore 3. If you're able to get your Rey leader unit to stick around and heal your base for 3 damage turn after turn, that is a super, super powerful effect. The fact that Obi-Wan has Sentinel means that when he flips, he's going to be protecting all of your other ground units that turn. And what is essentially a free 4/7 Sentinel is nothing to joke at. That's really strong. We know this because Obi-Wan Kenobi following Fate from Spark of Rebellion already exists, and he is a 6-cost 4/6 Sentinel. Now, yes, admittedly, he has a very powerful when defeated ability that buffs another unit and potentially draws a card, but still, the 4/6, or in the case of the leader unit, 4/7 Sentinel body is just a wall that your opponent has to address. And let's not forget, by the way, that the fact that Obi-Wan Kenobi Patient Mentor and Obi-Wan Kenobi Following Fate, since they have different subtitles, can be played at the same time, making a ridiculous wall of Sentinels for your opponent to deal with on turn 5. But Obi-Wan Kenobi Patient Mentor isn't even the first leader unit that has Sentinel. If we take a look at Chewbacca Walking Carpet, he deploys on 7 resources to be a 2/9 Sentinel with Grit. Now, there's arguments that can be made saying the 2/9 with Grit is probably stronger than the 4/7 without Grit. However, again, traits, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Force, Jedi, Republic. We're going to be seeing all sorts of synergies with these traits going forward. There are some synergies with Wookiee currently, but they're just nowhere near as powerful or relevant as Force and Jedi. On top of that, Obi-Wan's on-attack ability to heal 1 damage from a unit and then deal 1 damage to a different unit is going to allow you to keep your units topped up, including Obi-Wan himself. He can heal himself if he's got damage on him, but also ping off enemy units such as 1/1 battle droid tokens, or even maybe like a 5 HP unit that attacked into Obi-Wan and is now alive with 1 remaining health. Well, Obi-Wan can attack something else, heal himself back up, and then ping off that 1 remaining health. I wasn't super excited about Obi-Wan when he was first revealed, but after thinking about it some more and playing around with it on like Force Table, I'm actually pretty excited to try out an Obi-Wan Kenobi deck. Especially when we start looking at our next card, Royal Guard Attaché. I think I'm saying that right. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But our Royal Guard friend here is a 2-cost Vigilance unit with 2 power, 5 HP, and when played, deal 2 damage to this unit. So even though his printed stat line is a 2-cost 2/5, more realistically, you can look at him as a 2-cost 2/3, with the potential to have his HP healed. And again, if we look at the Obi-Wan Kenobi leader we were just talking about, his action allows you to heal 1 damage from a unit, and it doesn't cost an extra resource, meaning Royal Guard Attaché can be played on turn 1 and then healed with Obi-Wan's ability up to a 2/4, if you're okay giving up the initiative in most cases. Now, a vanilla 2/4 is also not a great unit, but it's also not bad, especially considering it can be used in other situations. While the Obi-Wan leader is the obvious synergy, we can also look at leader Krennic from set 1, who has a passive ability: each friendly damage unit gets +1/+0. In this case, you play Royal Guard Attaché on turn 1, and he is no longer a 2/3, he is a 3/3. And we know that vanilla 3/3s for 2 have seen play in the past, although Battlefield Marine here, for instance, has the Rebel trait, which was much more relevant than Royal Guard Attaché's new Naboo trait. But if you are playing Royal Guard in a Vigilance Heroism deck, there is a bit of synergy in the late game too if you're running Rey keeping the past. If you have Rey in play on a later turn and play the Royal Guard, not only can you attack with Rey to immediately heal that 2 damage from him, making him a 2/5 almost immediately, but the fact that he's lacking the heroism aspect means you also get to give him a shield token. Now granted, there's a little bit of setup for that to work, but a 2-cost 2/5 with a shield token is pretty good. We also don't know yet if there are going to be other cards in the set that could possibly synergize with Obi-Wan Kenobi's ability of healing damage from a friendly unit. Maybe a card comes into play that says, when this card is healed, do something, or when a unit is healed, do something. Even if such a card were to exist, do I think that's going to make unit healing cards such as 2-1B Surgical Droid meta? Probably not, but it would be an interesting deck type. I think Royal Guard Attaché is a decent card in the right deck, and if some sort of healing effect synergies come into existence in the future, I think he's going to be a pretty powerful turn 1 play. All right, next up we have Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite, a 5-cost Vigilance Heroism space unit, 4 power, 6 HP, both when played and on attack. You may deal 1 damage to this unit and 2 damage to another space unit. All right, so first up, I'm a little biased. You know me, I love my Star Wars space units. I love flying and spaceships and starfighter combat and all that stuff, so I kind of like this card more than I should already. And on top of that, I also really like playing control decks. So when you give me a really cool starfighter that fits into my blue-white control decks, I can't really give a fair assessment. I love this card. So a 4/6 for 5 is not great, not terrible, but a 4/6 for 5 that allows you to ping itself for 1 in order to do 2 damage to another space unit is decent. There are quite a few space units in the meta right now that only have 2 HP, Kylo's TIE Silencer being one example. Or even more relevant than that, you could use Energy Conversion Lab to just deal with a Fett's Fire Spray, which, as long as Boba decks exist, Fett's Fire Spray is going to be in the meta, so that's something. You can even use its ability to deal 1 damage to itself to ping the shield off of an enemy space unit, such as 7th Fleet Defender. But where I think this card's really going to shine is, if I had to guess, dealing with space units that have not yet been revealed for set 3. I mean, let's be honest, at some point we're going to see Vulture Droid starfighters. And if I had to guess, these things are probably going to be like 2/2s or 3/2s. I mean, Vulture Droids, Tri-Fighters, Geonosian Starfighters, there's a ton of Separatist Starfighters that we have not yet seen that if they have 2 HP or if they come into play shielded, Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite's going to be a great way to deal with them. And let's not forget, if you put it in a deck with an Obi-Wan Kenobi leader, you can use his leader ability to just heal the Aether Sprite again. So yeah, like I said, I'm a little biased because I love me my spaceships, but I think Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite's actually going to be a really cool control tool for blue-white decks in space. Speaking of blue-white control decks, we have a new event, 3 cost for...
Hello there.
Choose a unit that entered play this phase. It gets -4/-4 for this phase. So personally, I've played a lot of blue control decks, both heroism and villainy. And blue has been great for control because you have a lot of removal tools at your disposal with cards like Vanquish or Rival's Fall. Blue-black, however, has always had a slight edge over blue-white when it comes to hard control because of two cards in particular. The first being Super Laser Blast, which just straight up wipes the board of everything. And the second being Power of the Dark Side, because it's a very cheap removal tool. Now, yes, Power of the Dark Side does give your opponent the choice of which unit to remove, but if they only have one unit in play, then that's not much of a choice. Now, while I think Power of the Dark Side is probably still stronger than Hello There, because if you can manipulate the board in such a way that your opponent only has one unit in play, then you're effectively removing the downside of the card. I think Hello There is still strong enough to make blue-white control decks better. Currently, the closest sort of effect that blue-white has to Hello There is Make an Opening, which also costs 3 and gives a unit -2/-2 for the phase, while also healing 2 damage from your base. While Hello There does miss out on the healing of the base, the -4/-4 is definitely more relevant when it comes to simply removing things. Now, yes, it has to be a unit that was played that phase, but still, a lot of units that you're going to be playing early in the game are going to have 4 or less HP. So while it's not guaranteed to hit everything, it's going to hit most things most of the time. And also, by the way, it does work against Lurking TIE Phantom, so we have more tools to get rid of Lurking TIE Phantom. But better than that, due to the rules change when Set 2 came out regarding leader units, and deploying a leader is now considered having that leader enter play, Hello There can now be used to target leader units the phase they're flipped. So, if your opponent flips Boba Fett collecting the bounty, you can use Hello There the turn Boba Fett enters play, making it a 0/3, and then so long as they don't buff it with like Boba Fett's armor, you can finish it off with a 3-power unit. So yeah, while I'm definitely biased towards control, I don't think I'm quite as biased towards this as I was Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite. I think going forward, Hello There is probably going to be a staple control tool for blue-white decks. And while I don't think the -4/-4 is going to be enough to remove everything, I think it is a big enough impact that you're going to see a lot of it. All right, so the last card we're going to look at in this episode is Petranaki Arena, which is a new rare base that's going to be coming in the set. It is a cunning base with 26 HP and a passive ability that each leader unit you control gets +1/+0. Now, right away, 26 HP, it just, I don't know about you guys, it just feels weird to me. Every base in the game so far has either had 30 or 25 HP, so 26 just, it's like an itch on the back of my neck. There's something about it I just don't like, but what are you going to do? It is the first base we've seen that has a passive ability instead of an epic action. However, it is a very specific passive ability that buffs leader units you control by +1/+0. And for those of you that might be confused as to why it says each leader unit you control, there is the Twin Suns game mode for Star Wars Unlimited where you are allowed to have 2 leaders at the same time. So let's just compare this to Jeddah City, which is the other rare cunning base from Spark of Rebellion. It's a 25 HP base with the epic action to give a non-leader unit -4/-0 for the phase. And I think the biggest difference here is that Jeddah City is kind of more of a control ability, debuffing an opponent's unit by -4/-0 for the phase. Helps kind of fight for board control more than Petranaki Arena, which is clearly more of an aggressive ability. For example, Yellow Sabine is a pretty strong deck in the meta right now, and being able to flip Sabine on turn 3 and have her be a 3/5 instead of a 2/5 is pretty relevant. If the whole point of your deck is to race your opponent in base damage, then getting that 1 extra power on your leader Sabine is going to help. Not only that, but double yellow Boba is another really strong deck in the meta right now, and having Boba Fett flip as a 5/7 instead of a 4/7 is again really powerful. And I even know there's a really popular yellow Kylo Ren aggressive deck out there that would probably also really like to run this base. So I don't know. I personally don't play hyper aggressive or yellow decks all that often, so I probably am not the best person to evaluate this, but for those of you who do like your hyper aggressive yellow decks, I think this base might be your new go-to. So that's going to be it for this video. 8 new cards coming to Star Wars Unlimited in Twilight of the Republic. I believe the set launches in November, but between now and then, we still have like over 200 new cards to see. Spoiler season is in full swing now, so I'm going to do my best to keep up with them as they are released. But just as a reminder, YouTube is not a full-time thing for me. I do have a career that actually keeps me busy quite a bit. So some of these videos might come out a couple days to a week after the cards are spoiled, but hopefully you still enjoy tuning in to hear my opinions on them. Let me know in the comments which of these cards you're really excited to play. Let me know if there are any interactions you can think of that I might not have brought up in the video. And let me know if there's any characters or vehicles or anything from Star Wars that you're really excited to potentially see a card for in the future. But that's it for now. Thank you all for watching. Mobius1 here, and I'll see you in the next one.